The crisp autumn air was alive with energy as New Yorkers bustled along Fifth Avenue. Among the towering glass and steel edifices stood one of the most prestigious landmarks in Ethan Brooks' retail empire. An elegant luxury store known for its curated collection of high-end fashion, jewelry, and accessories. Its sleek facade glimmered in the sunlight, and inside, polished marble floors and meticulously arranged displays spoke to a level of sophistication that Ethan had spent years cultivating. Ethan Brooks was no stranger to luxury. As the owner of an expansive retail chain specializing in high-end goods, he had built his empire from the ground up. But Ethan's success was not solely defined by opulence. It was rooted in principles. A self-made man who had climbed his way out of a modest upbringing, he understood the value of respect, integrity, and inclusivity. These values formed the foundation of his brand, setting it apart in an industry often marked by exclusivity and pretension. Despite his achievements, Ethan never allowed himself to grow complacent. He knew that maintaining the culture and reputation of his stores required vigilance, especially as the business expanded. To him, the customer experience was paramount. It wasn't just about selling luxury items, but about creating an environment where everyone, regardless of their background or appearance, felt welcome and valued. However, whispers of dissatisfaction from some of his store locations had recently reached him, and one particular branch, nestled in the heart of Manhattan, had become a growing concern. The store was managed by Victor Hayes, a seasoned franchise owner who had once shown great promise, but whose rigid, elitist approach had begun to tarnish the store's reputation. Victor was known for his sharp suits, sharper tongue, and an attitude that prioritized appearances above all else. He prided himself on running a store that attracted only the right clientele, a mindset that troubled Ethan deeply. Working under Victor was Clara Andrews, the store's assistant manager. Clara was ambitious and passionate about her job, striving to create a welcoming atmosphere for both customers and staff. But under Victor's domineering leadership, her efforts were often stifled, leaving her to navigate a challenging work environment where respect and professionalism were inconsistently applied. Ethan decided it was time to see for himself what was happening at the Manhattan store. He wanted to experience the customer service firsthand, not as the billionaire owner of the brand, but as an ordinary shopper. It was not the first time he had gone undercover in his stores, but this visit carried a unique weight. The Manhattan location was a flagship store, a symbol of the brand's success. If there were cracks in its foundation, they needed to be addressed immediately. With a plan forming in his mind, Ethan resolved to visit the store in disguise. He wasn't seeking to catch anyone in the act. Rather, he hoped to observe the day-to-day interactions and get a sense of whether his vision for the brand was being upheld. Ethan arrived at the store early the following afternoon, blending into the bustling crowd on Fifth Avenue. He had traded his usual tailored suits for a simple black jacket, faded jeans, and sneakers. A baseball cap pulled low over his forehead completed the look, obscuring his face from immediate recognition. The transformation was deliberate. He wanted to strip away the status and influence that often accompanied his presence. As he pushed open the heavy glass door, a soft chime announced his entry. The store was every bit as impressive as he had envisioned it during its design phase. The marble floors gleamed under strategically placed lighting, while plush seating areas invited customers to linger. Elegant displays of jewelry and couture lined the walls, each piece carefully curated to exude sophistication. Ethan's eyes scanned the room, noting the subtle interplay of luxury and accessibility that had been his guiding principle. He wanted to feel proud of this space, but his focus quickly shifted to the interactions unfolding around him. Near the entrance, Victor Hayes stood conversing with a customer, a middle-aged woman in a designer dress. Dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, Victor exuded an air of authority. His voice was low and measured, his smile calculated. As Ethan wandered over to a display of high-end watches, he felt Victor's gaze sweep over him, a brief glance that was quickly replaced by a frown. Ethan picked up one of the watches, a sleek silver piece with intricate detailing. Its craftsmanship was impeccable, and he appreciated its weight in his hand. He turned to the nearest associate, a younger woman who hesitated for a moment before stepping forward to assist him. "Excuse me," Ethan said politely. "Could you tell me more about this watch?" Before the associate could respond, Victor approached. His steps were deliberate, his expression neutral, but edged with something colder. His eyes flicked over Ethan's casual attire, and his tone, when he spoke, carried a faint air of condescension. "That's one of our limited edition pieces," Victor said. "Very exclusive. Perhaps something else might suit you better." Ethan raised an eyebrow, meeting Victor's gaze. "Why do you think that?" he asked, keeping his tone light. Victor hesitated, but only briefly. "Well," he said, his smile tight, "it's a collector's item, priced at $125,000. It's not exactly common." The insinuation hung in the air. Ethan's fingers brushed the watch's surface before placing it gently back on the display. "I see," he said, his voice calm. "Thank you for the information." Victor nodded curtly and moved away, his attention returning to the more suitable customers. Ethan's chest tightened, but he suppressed the irritation building within him. He had come to observe, and he needed to maintain his composure to gain a clearer picture of the store's operations. As he moved through the store, he noticed Clara assisting another customer, her demeanor professional and genuine. She answered questions patiently and with a warmth that contrasted sharply with Victor's aloofness. Ethan lingered nearby, listening as she helped the customer choose a handbag, offering thoughtful recommendations without any trace of judgment. It was clear that Clara valued the customer's experience, regardless of their outward appearance. However, not all staff members shared Clara's approach. Some, likely taking cues from Victor, displayed a certain detachment, their interactions tinged with the same subtle condescension Ethan had experienced. The disparity between Clara's professionalism and Victor's dismissiveness was stark, and it underscored the inconsistency in the store's culture. Ethan spent the better part of an hour in the store, quietly observing. By the time he left, his mind was swirling with thoughts. The store itself was stunning, a testament to his vision, but the customer experience was another story. Victor's behavior wasn't just problematic, it was antithetical to everything Ethan's brand stood for. As he stepped back onto Fifth Avenue, the cool breeze sharp against his skin, Ethan felt a mix of disappointment and determination. The Manhattan store was one of his flagship locations, and it needed to reflect the values he had built his empire on. If it didn't, then changes, big changes, would have to be made. He took a deep breath, adjusting his baseball cap as he melted back into the crowd. The next visit wouldn't be just about observing. It would be about understanding the depth of the problem and formulating a plan to address it. Ethan's vision for his brand was non-negotiable, and he was prepared to take whatever steps were necessary to uphold it. The next day, Ethan Brooks returned to the luxury store on Fifth Avenue. His attire was the same as before, jeans, a plain black jacket, and a baseball cap, ensuring he remained unrecognizable. This time, his purpose was clear, to dig deeper into the store's culture, and to see whether the issues he observed on his first visit were isolated incidents or symptoms of a larger problem. As he entered, the familiar chime above the door announced his presence. The store was quieter than the previous day, with only a handful of customers browsing the gleaming displays. The staff worked with hushed efficiency, but Ethan's sharp eye caught the subtle shift in their demeanor as he stepped inside. A few associates glanced his way before quickly looking back to their tasks, their body language uneasy. Victor Hayes, as always, was stationed near the center of the store, speaking to a young couple dressed in designer clothing. His polished demeanor remained intact, but when his gaze landed on Ethan, his smile faltered for the briefest moment. Victor's eyes narrowed slightly before he turned back to the couple, finishing his conversation with practiced charm. Moments later, he discreetly gestured to Sarah, one of the floor associates, and tilted his head in Ethan's direction. Ethan pretended not to notice, moving toward a display of high-end leather goods. As he inspected a briefcase crafted from Italian leather, he could feel Victor's eyes on him. Moments later, Victor strode over, his footsteps measured and deliberate. "Back again, I see," Victor said, his tone polite but edged with suspicion. "Looking for something specific today?" Ethan met his gaze evenly. "Yes, I wanted to take another look at your premium items. This briefcase caught my eye." Victor's smile was tight, and he made no effort to hide his skepticism. Ah, that's from our latest collection. It's priced at $6,500. Perhaps you'd prefer something more standard? Ethan raised an eyebrow. Why would you assume that? Victor's eyes flickered with irritation, but he maintained his composed exterior. It's not an assumption, he replied smoothly. I simply want to ensure our customers find items that suit their needs and their budget. Ethan placed the briefcase back on the shelf with deliberate care. I see, he said evenly. And what if I'm interested in one of your most expensive pieces? Do I need to prove something to you first? Victor's expression hardened, and the veneer of politeness began to crack. We have a reputation to maintain, he said, his voice lowering slightly. This isn't a place where just anyone can walk in and handle our premium items. Ethan's patience was wearing thin, but he forced himself to remain calm. And how do you decide who just anyone is? He asked, his tone sharp but measured. Do you base it solely on what someone's wearing? Or is there something else you're judging? Victor stiffened, clearly unaccustomed to being questioned. It's about maintaining the brand's exclusivity, he replied curtly. Our clientele expects a certain standard, an atmosphere that reflects the prestige of our products. We can't afford to compromise that. Ethan crossed his arms, his gaze steady. So exclusivity means turning people away because you think they don't fit your image. Sounds like you're more interested in appearances than in providing good service. Victor's face darkened, and his condescension became more pronounced. With all due respect, he said, his voice laced with sarcasm. If you disagree with how this store operates, you're welcome to shop elsewhere. We have plenty of other customers who appreciate what we offer. Ethan stared at Victor, his mind racing. This was no longer about observing. It was a confirmation of everything he feared. Victor's discriminatory mindset wasn't just a personal flaw. It was actively undermining the values Ethan had built his brand on. I'll take that into consideration, Ethan said coolly, his expression unreadable. Without another word, he turned and walked toward the door, the chime ringing softly as he stepped back into the bustling streets of Manhattan. Victor watched him leave, a faint smirk playing at the corners of his mouth, clearly satisfied with the exchange. Little did he know, the man he had just dismissed wasn't a disgruntled shopper, but the owner of the very empire he claimed to protect. Outside, Ethan inhaled deeply, letting the cool air steady him. His heart was pounding, not with anger, but with determination. Victor's attitude was unacceptable, not just as an affront to Ethan himself, but as a betrayal of the brand's core values. This wasn't just about poor customer service. It was about integrity, fairness, and respect. Ethan adjusted his baseball cap, his thoughts crystallizing into a plan. Victor had shown his true colors, and now it was time to act. The next time Ethan entered that store, it wouldn't be as a disguised customer. It would be as the man in charge, and Victor Hayes would be forced to answer for his actions. The polished glass doors of Ethan Brooks's corporate headquarters loomed tall against the Manhattan skyline. Inside, the executive conference room buzzed with quiet efficiency. Ethan sat at the head of a sleek table, his expression calm but resolute, his fingers lightly tapping against the surface as he waited. The time for action had come, and this meeting would solidify the message he intended to send, not just to Victor Hayes, but to the entire company. Victor Hayes arrived promptly, striding into the room with his usual air of confidence. Dressed in a tailored suit, his demeanor suggested he believed this meeting was about discussing performance metrics or future expansion plans. His sharp eyes briefly scanned the room before settling on Ethan, seated where Victor hadn't expected him. Mr. Brooks, Victor began, his tone carefully neutral. I wasn't expecting you to lead this meeting. Is this about the store's recent success? Our sales figures have been excellent. Ethan gestured toward the chair directly opposite him. Please have a seat, Victor. There's something important we need to discuss. Victor hesitated for a fraction of a second before sitting down. He leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. Of course. I'm always happy to talk about the store's achievements. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he reached for a folder resting on the table and opened it, revealing detailed notes and reports. After a moment, he looked up, his piercing gaze meeting Victor's. "Victor, I visited your store twice this week. The statement landed like a quiet thunderclap. Victor's brow furrowed, his confidence wavering. "You did?" he asked cautiously, his tone carefully measured. "I wish I had known. I would have made sure you were properly received." Ethan's lips curved into a faint, humorless smile. "That's precisely the issue, Victor. I came unannounced, dressed casually to experience the store as any other customer would. And what I saw was deeply troubling." Victor straightened slightly, the faintest trace of unease crossing his features. "Troubling? In what way? I assure you, Mr. Brooks, my team is highly trained to deliver the level of service your brand is known for." Ethan's voice remained calm, but there was a steel edge to it. "Is that so?" "Because what I experienced was dismissive behavior, condescension, and outright discrimination. And it wasn't just from the staff. It was from you." Victor's expression tightened, his composure cracking. I don't understand. Surely there must be some misunderstanding." Ethan leaned forward slightly, his tone sharp but controlled. "Do you remember a man in jeans and a black jacket asking about a premium briefcase and a designer coat? The one you assumed couldn't afford anything in the store?" Victor froze, his face paling. The confidence he'd worn like armor began to dissolve. "That was you?" he stammered. "Yes," Ethan replied curtly. "It was me. And the way you treated me, without knowing who I was, speaks volumes about how you likely treat others who don't fit your narrow view of what a customer should look like." Victor's mouth opened and closed, his usual quick wit failing him. "Mr. Brooks, I didn't realize—" Ethan cut him off. "That's the point, Victor. Respect and decency shouldn't depend on knowing someone's identity or status. They should be universal. But instead, you judged me based on my appearance, dismissed me without giving me the same consideration you'd give someone wearing a designer suit." Victor's tone turned desperate. "I never meant to offend you. It was a misunderstanding, I assure you. If I had known—" "Stop," Ethan said firmly, his voice silencing Victor's protest. "You're still missing the point. This isn't about me. It's about the customers who walk through those doors every day, the ones you dismiss because they don't meet your arbitrary standards. You've not only damaged their experience, but undermined everything this brand stands for." Victor leaned forward, his hands gripping the edge of the table. "Please, Mr. Brooks. I've been with this company for years. I've contributed to its success. I can fix this. I'll implement training, make changes. Whatever it takes." Ethan shook his head, his expression resolute. "Victor, your actions go beyond a simple mistake. They reveal a mindset that has no place in this company. This brand was built on the principles of inclusivity and respect, values you've disregarded. I can't allow that to continue." Victor's desperation grew. "Mr. Brooks, I'm begging you. Don't do this. Give me a chance to make things right." Ethan rose from his seat, his presence towering even as his voice remained steady. "Victor, I've made my decision. Effective immediately, your franchise agreement is terminated. Security will escort you out of the building." Victor shot out of his chair, his face a mask of disbelief and anger. "You can't do this. I've built that store from the ground up. It's my livelihood. You're throwing it all away." Ethan's gaze didn't waver. "You threw it away the moment you decided to let prejudice guide your actions. This brand stands for more than profits, Victor. It stands for treating people with dignity. I won't compromise those values. Not for you, not for anyone." Victor's shoulders sagged as the weight of Ethan's words sank in. The fight drained from his posture, replaced by resignation. Security personnel entered the room, waiting by the door. "I'm sorry it had to come to this," Ethan said, his tone softening but losing none of its firmness. "I hope you take this as an opportunity to reflect and grow. But your time with this company is over." Victor looked at Ethan one last time, his face a mix of anger and regret, before turning and walking out of the room, flanked by security. As the door closed behind him, Ethan sat back down, exhaling deeply. The confrontation had been necessary but draining. Yet he felt a sense of resolve. He had upheld the principles he'd built his empire on. Ethan pressed a button on the phone beside him, summoning his assistant. "Let's begin the transition plan for the store," he said. "I want new leadership in place as soon as possible, and schedule a meeting with the staff. I want to address them personally." "Yes, Mr. Brooks," came the efficient reply. Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring out at the city skyline. The decision had been made, and the course was clear. His brand's future depended on maintaining its core values, and he was determined to ensure those values were upheld at every level. The day after Victor Hayes' departure, Ethan Brooks sat at his desk reviewing the store's personnel files. Among the reports and evaluations, one name stood out: Clara Andrews. Her professionalism, even under Victor's problematic leadership, had caught his attention during his visits to the store. Clara had demonstrated the qualities Ethan valued most: respect, kindness, and dedication. Now, as he considered the future of the store, her name seemed like the natural choice for its new leader. Ethan called Clara directly and invited her to a meeting at headquarters. The news of Victor's termination had already spread, leaving the staff in a state of uncertainty. Clara had spent the morning reassuring her team and trying to maintain morale, unaware that Ethan was about to make a decision that would change her career. When Clara arrived at the sleek corporate office, her nerves were evident. She straightened her blazer and took a deep breath before stepping into Ethan's expansive office. The walls were lined with awards and photographs, each a testament to the empire Ethan had built. Clara felt a mix of awe and intimidation, but was determined to represent herself well. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks," Clara said, her voice steady but polite. "Good morning, Clara. Please have a seat," Ethan replied, gesturing to the chair across from him. His tone was warm, immediately putting her at ease. "I wanted to speak with you personally about the changes we're making at the store," Ethan began. "I've observed your work ethic, your professionalism, and your dedication. It's clear to me that you've been a stabilizing force in an otherwise challenging environment." Clara's eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by the unexpected praise. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. That means a lot to me." Ethan leaned forward, his expression serious but encouraging. "Clara, I believe in recognizing talent and potential. Your actions have shown me that you have what it takes to lead. That's why I'd like to offer you the position of interim manager." Clara's mouth fell open in surprise. She blinked, processing his words, before managing to speak. "Interim manager? Mr. Brooks, I don't know what to say. I never expected this." Ethan smiled. "I've always believed that leadership is about more than titles. It's about how you treat people and the example you set. You've already shown that you're capable of fostering respect and professionalism. I'm confident you'll rise to the challenge." Clara's surprise gave way to a sense of pride and determination. "I won't let you down, Mr. Brooks. Thank you for trusting me with this opportunity." "I have no doubt you'll do an excellent job," Ethan said. "You'll have my full support as you step into this role. The store is undergoing a cultural shift, and you're the perfect person to guide the team through it." Clara nodded, her confidence growing. "I understand the importance of making this transition successful. My first priority will be to rebuild trust among the staff and create a welcoming environment for every customer." Ethan handed her a folder containing the store's new objectives and guidelines. "To help with that, I want you to organize training sessions focused on inclusivity, cultural awareness, and customer service excellence. I want every employee to understand our values and how to embody them." Clara opened the folder, scanning the contents. She could already see the framework for a brighter, more unified team. "I'll get started on this immediately. The staff needs to feel supported, and I want to make sure they have the tools to succeed." Ethan stood, extending his hand. "I'm counting on you, Clara. Together, we'll ensure this store becomes the standard for what our brand represents." Clara stood and shook his hand firmly. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I won't let you down." The next morning, Clara arrived at the store early, armed with a plan. She gathered the staff in the employee lounge, a space that felt unusually tense after Victor's abrupt exit. The team, uncertain about what to expect, looked to Clara for guidance. "Good morning, everyone," Clara began, her voice steady but warm. "I know the past few days have been a whirlwind, and there's been a lot of change. I want to assure you that we're moving forward with a clear vision and a renewed focus on what matters most: respect, inclusivity, and exceptional service." The room began to relax as Clara's sincerity resonated with the team. She continued, "Starting next week, we'll be implementing training sessions designed to help us grow as a team. These workshops will cover cultural awareness, inclusivity, and strategies for creating a welcoming environment for all our customers." One of the senior sales associates, James, raised his hand. "Clara, what happens if someone resists these changes? Not everyone was on board with Victor's leadership, but some might be set in their ways." Clara nodded, acknowledging the concern. "I understand that change can be challenging, but this is non-negotiable. Our brand stands for respect, and every one of us has a role to play in upholding that standard. If anyone struggles, I'll work with them personally. But if someone refuses to adapt, there will be consequences." The room was silent for a moment before Claire, a cashier, spoke up. "I'm glad we're making these changes. There were times when I felt uncomfortable with how customers were treated, but I didn't feel like I could speak up." Clara smiled. "That's exactly what we're changing. Going forward, I want every member of this team to feel empowered to voice concerns and take pride in their work. This is a fresh start for all of us." The team nodded, the atmosphere in the room shifting from uncertainty to cautious optimism. Clara could feel their trust building, and it strengthened her resolve. Over the next week, Clara threw herself into her new role with determination. She worked closely with Ethan's corporate team to organize training sessions, ensuring they were engaging and impactful. The sessions combined role-playing scenarios, interactive discussions, and expert-led workshops, helping the staff develop new skills and a deeper understanding of inclusivity. Clara also made a point to connect with each employee individually, listening to their concerns and ideas. Her hands-on approach quickly earned her the respect of her team, who appreciated her openness and commitment. Ethan visited the store during one of the training sessions, observing quietly from the back of the room. He watched as Clara led the group with confidence, encouraging participation and fostering an environment of collaboration. Her leadership reaffirmed his decision to place her in charge. As the session concluded, Ethan approached Clara. "You've done a remarkable job," he said. "The energy in this store is completely different from what I experienced before." Clara beamed with pride. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. The team has really embraced the changes. I think we're building something special here." "You are," Ethan replied. "This store is becoming a model for what our brand stands for, and that's thanks to your leadership." Clara's heart swelled with gratitude and determination. The path forward wasn't just about running a store, it was about creating a community of respect and excellence. With Ethan's support and her team's commitment, Clara knew they were on their way to achieving something extraordinary. As the training sessions progressed, the impact was palpable. The store's atmosphere shifted, shedding the cold and transactional vibe that had prevailed under Victor Hayes. The employees, once hesitant and rigid, began to exude genuine warmth and engagement. Customers noticed the difference, often commenting on the improved service. One day, a young man entered the store wearing casual clothes and sneakers. He wandered to the watch display, examining the high-end pieces. In the past, his attire might have drawn judgment or suspicion, but this time, Claire, the cashier, greeted him with a smile. "Good afternoon, sir. Can I help you with anything?" she asked. The man looked up, clearly surprised by her kindness. "I was just looking at this piece. It's beautiful," he said, pointing to a platinum watch. Claire nodded. "It is. That model is part of our signature collection. If you'd like, I can tell you more about it, or even let you try it on." The man smiled, visibly at ease. "I'd love that." As Claire assisted him, Ethan Brooks, who had been observing discreetly from the corner, felt a swell of pride. The subtle moments, an unassuming customer being treated with respect, were proof that Clara's efforts were bearing fruit. Clara also prioritized team-building activities to strengthen camaraderie among the staff. Monthly meetings became open forums where employees could share their ideas, challenges, and successes. One such meeting included a brainstorming session on how to further enhance the customer experience. "We could offer personalized consultations," suggested Claire. "It'd give us a chance to really connect with customers and make them feel special." "That's a great idea," Clara said, jotting it down. "Let's develop a system for scheduling and promoting consultations." The sense of inclusion and collaboration began to foster a unified team culture. Staff members who had once felt undervalued now took pride in their roles, realizing they were integral to the store's success. Word of the store's transformation spread quickly. Regular customers noticed the changes, leaving positive reviews and feedback. "I've been shopping here for years, and this is the best service I've ever received," one loyal customer wrote. "The staff is attentive and respectful, no matter who you are." Even new customers felt the shift. A woman in a simple dress entered one afternoon, clearly hesitant. A sales associate approached her warmly, ensuring she felt comfortable exploring the high-end merchandise. She later shared her experience with the assistant manager. "I always thought luxury stores were intimidating," she admitted, "but your team made me feel welcome. Thank you." As the weeks passed, Ethan decided to make another unannounced visit to the store. Dressed in the same casual attire he had worn during his undercover visits, he stepped through the glass doors. The familiar chime greeted him, but this time so did something else, a genuine warmth that was unmistakable. James approached him with a smile. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome back. How can I assist you today?" Ethan couldn't help but smile back. "I'm just browsing today, thank you." He wandered through the store, observing the staff's interactions with customers. Each engagement reflected the values he had worked so hard to instill: respect, attentiveness, and kindness. When Ethan finally approached Clara, who was reviewing a display layout, she greeted him with a confident grin. "Mr. Brooks, it's great to see you. How's everything looking?" "Clara, it's night and day compared to my first visit," Ethan replied sincerely. "You've done an incredible job. The team is thriving under your leadership." Clara's eyes shone with pride. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. It's been a team effort. Everyone has embraced the changes, and it's rewarding to see the results." Ethan nodded. "You've set a new standard for this store, and for the entire brand. Keep up the great work." As Ethan left the store that day, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Clara had not only restored the store's reputation, but had also created a culture that reflected the brand's core values. Customers and employees alike felt valued, and the once divisive environment had transformed into one of respect and inclusivity. Ethan knew there was still work to be done, more stores to visit, more leaders to inspire, but for now, this store stood as a shining example of what was possible when principles guided practice. Clara, too, felt a sense of accomplishment as she walked the store floor, greeting her team. The transformation wasn't just about sales or appearances. It was about creating a space where everyone, customers and employees, felt they belonged. She knew the journey wasn't over, but with each passing day, she was more confident in the path forward. Months had passed since Victor Hayes' dismissal from his role as franchise owner of the luxury store in downtown Manhattan. Life had been difficult for Victor since that day. The consequences of his actions loomed over him like a heavy shadow. Losing the franchise had not only cost him his position, but also his reputation. His days were spent reflecting on what had gone wrong and how his rigid attitudes had led to his downfall. Victor's reflections weren't just idle musings. He began attending leadership seminars and workshops on inclusivity and cultural awareness, seeking to understand the biases that had clouded his judgment. It was during one such workshop that he realized the full weight of his mistakes. He had spent years prioritizing profit and exclusivity over people, dismissing the importance of treating customers and employees with respect. One morning, after much deliberation, Victor decided to take a step he had avoided for months, facing Ethan Brooks, the man he had wronged. He walked into the luxury store, the familiar chime above the door ringing as it had so many times before. This time, however, he wasn't the confident franchise owner. He was a man seeking redemption. Ethan was in the store that day, meeting with Clara Andrews to discuss the latest sales reports. The transformation Clara had spearheaded was remarkable, and Ethan was proud of how the team had embraced the company's core values. As he reviewed the numbers, he noticed a familiar figure standing hesitantly near the entrance. "Victor," Ethan said, his tone neutral as he approached. "I didn't expect to see you here." Victor shifted uncomfortably, his hands clasped in front of him. He was dressed more modestly than Ethan remembered, his once impeccable suits replaced by a simple blazer and slacks. "Mr. Brooks," Victor began, his voice quieter than usual. "Thank you for speaking with me. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I needed to come here." Ethan gestured toward a seating area near the back of the store. "Let's talk," he said. They sat across from each other, the polished marble floor reflecting the soft lighting around them. Victor took a deep breath before continuing. "I want to start by apologizing," he said, "for how I treated you, for how I treated others. I've had time to think, a lot of time, and I realize now how wrong I was. My attitude, my assumptions, they went against everything this brand stands for." Ethan listened silently, his expression unreadable, as Victor continued. "I've spent the past few months trying to learn from this experience," Victor said earnestly. "I've attended workshops, read books, even spoken to people I never would have taken the time to understand before. I've realized that I let my prejudices and my ego dictate how I treated people. I can't change the past, but I want to do better." Victor's voice faltered for a moment, but he pressed on. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm here to ask for another chance. If you'll let me, I'd like to manage the store again. I promise I'll do things differently this time." Ethan took a moment to respond, leaning back in his chair and studying Victor carefully. He could see the sincerity in Victor's eyes, the weight of regret etched into his face. But sincerity wasn't enough to erase the damage that had been done. "Victor," Ethan began, his tone calm but firm. "I appreciate your apology, and I can see that you've put effort into reflecting on your actions. That's a step in the right direction. But what happened in this store was more than just a mistake. It was a pattern of behavior that undermined everything this brand stands for." Victor nodded slowly, his expression somber. "I understand that, Mr. Brooks. I truly do. But I've changed. I've learned." "I believe you've started to change," Ethan said, his gaze steady. "But this isn't just about you. It's about the people who work here, the customers who walk through these doors. When I entrusted you with this store, I trusted you to uphold the values of inclusivity, respect, and dignity. That trust was broken." Victor's shoulders sagged slightly, but he didn't interrupt. Ethan continued, "Clara has worked tirelessly to rebuild what was lost. The staff has embraced a new culture, and the store is thriving under her leadership. I can't risk undoing that progress by reinstating someone who was at the center of the problem." Victor looked down at his hands, nodding in resignation. "I understand," he said softly. "I can't undo the damage I caused. But I want you to know that I'll keep trying to do better, even if it's not here." Ethan's tone softened slightly. "That's the right attitude, Victor. Redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it and making sure you don't repeat the same mistakes. Use what you've learned to make a difference wherever you go next." Victor looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for hearing me out and for giving me the chance to say this. I won't forget it." Ethan stood, extending his hand. "I wish you the best, Victor. Take this experience and grow from it." Victor shook Ethan's hand, his grip firm but humble. "I will," he said. "And thank you. For everything." As Victor walked out of the store, he felt a mix of disappointment and resolve. He knew he wouldn't get a second chance here, but Ethan's words had given him something else. A path forward. He resolved to use his experience to advocate for inclusivity and respect in his future endeavors, determined to prove that he could truly change. Inside the store, Ethan watched Victor leave, a thoughtful expression on his face. Redemption wasn't an easy road, but he hoped Victor would stay on it. For now, his focus remained on the store and the people who had embraced its transformation. Clara approached Ethan as he returned to the sales floor. "Everything all right?" she asked, her tone concerned. "Everything's fine," Ethan replied with a small smile. "Victor came to apologize. I think he's trying to change." Clara nodded, her expression neutral. "Do you think he will?" Ethan shrugged slightly. "That's up to him. But we've built something strong here, Clara, and I know it's in good hands." Clara smiled, a quiet confidence in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. We won't let you down." As the day continued, the store buzzed with life, its staff embodying the values Ethan had always envisioned. The transformation of the downtown Manhattan luxury store marked the beginning of a new era, not just for that location, but for Ethan Brooks' entire retail empire. Clara Andrews, now the permanent store manager, embraced her role with determination and purpose, setting a powerful example for her team. Clara made it clear that the store would continue to thrive on principles of respect, inclusion, and exceptional service. She started by fostering open communication with her staff, holding regular team meetings where employees could share ideas, concerns, and feedback without fear of judgment. "Everyone has a voice here," Clara said during one such meeting. "Whether you're at the front counter, on the sales floor, or working behind the scenes, your role is vital and your perspective matters." The team responded enthusiastically. Clara's transparent and approachable leadership style motivated the staff to go above and beyond, creating an atmosphere that was not only professional, but welcoming. Training sessions became a cornerstone of Clara's management strategy. She introduced workshops on cultural awareness, emphasizing how diversity enriched the workplace and the customer experience. These sessions also included practical exercises on conflict resolution and empathy, helping employees handle difficult situations with poise and compassion. Clara also made a point to personally mentor staff members who showed potential for growth. One such employee was James, a young sales associate who had previously struggled with confidence in dealing with high-profile clients. "James," Clara said one afternoon, "you have an incredible knack for making people feel comfortable. Use that to your advantage. Build relationships, not just sales." Under Clara's guidance, James flourished, becoming one of the top-performing associates. Stories like his became common in the store, as Clara's leadership lifted the entire team. The store quickly earned a reputation as a model of inclusivity and excellence. Customers noticed the difference and often remarked on the warmth and professionalism of the staff. "It's not just the products," one loyal customer commented. "It's how you feel when you walk in here, like you're truly valued." Positive feedback flowed in, not only from customers, but also from the staff, who found renewed pride in their work. The store's sales numbers reflected this shift, with revenue climbing steadily and surpassing expectations. Ethan made frequent visits to the store, observing its transformation firsthand. Each time he walked through the doors, he was greeted by a team that radiated confidence and unity. "You've done an incredible job here, Clara," Ethan said during one visit. "This store isn't just meeting expectations, it's exceeding them. You've turned it into a shining example of what our brand stands for." Clara smiled, her gratitude evident. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. But it's not just me, it's the team. They've embraced the vision and made it their own." The success of the Manhattan store inspired Ethan to think bigger. If such profound changes could happen in one location, why not across the entire brand? Ethan saw an opportunity to make inclusivity and respect the foundation of every store in his empire. Ethan began by introducing a company-wide initiative called People First. The program aimed to instill the values of respect, empathy, and inclusivity in every employee, from the top executives to entry-level staff. He announced the initiative during a virtual town hall meeting, addressing thousands of employees across the globe. "Our brand isn't just about luxury," Ethan said. "It's about the people, our customers, our employees, and our communities. People First isn't just a slogan. It's a commitment to treating everyone with dignity and respect." The initiative included comprehensive training programs, diversity and inclusion workshops, and regular audits to ensure every store adhered to the company's values. Ethan also established a feedback system, allowing employees and customers to report concerns anonymously, ensuring accountability at all levels. Ethan traveled extensively, visiting stores in different cities and meeting with managers to discuss the rollout of People First. During these visits, he emphasized the importance of strong leadership, drawing from Clara's success as an example. "If Clara can turn things around in Manhattan, so can you," he told a group of managers in Chicago. "It starts with listening, understanding, and acting with integrity." As the months went by, the impact of Ethan's initiatives became apparent. Stores across the brand adopted the same culture of respect and inclusion that had transformed the Manhattan location. Customer satisfaction soared, and employees reported higher job satisfaction, creating a positive ripple effect throughout the organization. Back in Manhattan, Clara reflected on how far the store had come. The days of dismissive attitudes and exclusivity were a distant memory. In their place was a thriving environment where people felt valued, whether they were buying a diamond necklace or just browsing the latest collection. Ethan, too, felt a sense of pride and fulfillment. He had built his brand from the ground up, but this chapter of its evolution felt especially meaningful. It wasn't just about success, it was about making a difference. As Ethan stood in the Manhattan store one evening, watching the buzz of activity around him, Clara joined him. "You've set a new standard, Mr. Brooks," Clara said. "Not just for this store, but for all of them." Ethan nodded, a thoughtful smile on his face. "It's not just about the standard, Clara. It's about ensuring that we never lose sight of what matters: people." The transformation was far from over, but Ethan was confident they were moving in the right direction. With leaders like Clara at the helm, the future of the brand was brighter than ever. Together, they had proven that a commitment to respect and inclusivity could be the foundation of not just a successful business, but a better world. The journey of transformation at the Manhattan store stood as a powerful reminder of the values Ethan Brooks held dear: resilience, respect, and inclusion. Through challenges and growth, the store had become more than a luxury destination. It was now a place where every person felt valued and seen. Ethan addressed his team, saying, "Respect is the greatest luxury we can offer. When we lead with kindness and inclusivity, we don't just improve our stores, we change lives. This isn't just about business, it's about humanity." With Clara's leadership and Ethan's unwavering commitment, the brand now embodied the belief that dignity and empathy should guide every interaction. This story reminds us all that true success is built not on appearances, but on how we treat others. If you found this story inspiring, hit the subscribe button for more heartwarming stories that celebrate resilience and kindness. Let's spread the message together.